Alright, it's Mortal Mike here. I just wanted to, again, go over my newest album, System Failure. This is not a commercial. This is more of an explanation of why I called it System Failure and what exactly is going on there. Okay, the last video was way brief. This one's going to be a lot more extensive and kind of go in behind the scenes of why I called the album System Failure. We start off with the Lord's Prayer. I don't even know if you believe in prayer like that or if you believe in God, and all that's actually irrelevant. I believe in prayer, and you can speak words of life and prosperity into people's lives and make it a reality. You can speak things into people's lives and make it real, okay? So we start off with the Lord's Prayer. Goes into bandanas and purge masks, okay? That depicts the youth and the adolescent majority that is out there in these rallies and is trying to stand up against things. It goes and it describes and talks about the people that are struggling in our nation and why they are doing these things, okay, and why they are retaliating in the way they are. Then we go into a song called Apple Pie, which was originally called American Dream, and that displays the carelessness of the youth of our nation. I'm not saying that we aren't to blame, because a lot of us are careless nowadays. So the album's called System Failure. I myself, as a person, have to touch on these subjects. I have to say something, otherwise I'm not doing my part. I have a voice, and with social networking the way that it is there nowadays, I need to say my opinion. I'm obligated as a human to do so, and I'm not saying that everyone's going to agree with me, and I'm not saying that what I'm saying is entirely right, although I am speaking for a lot of people. I'm speaking for a mass that have the same mentality, have the same questions, and these issues should be addressed. So I'm speaking for those people. I'm speaking for myself, okay? I'm not an economist. I am not involved in government. I'm not a financial advisor, but the topics I'm going to talk about are simple. It's there, it's on the internet, it's reality, and that's why I'm going to speak about it, okay? I sound like a parrot. If you know me personally, you know I've probably posted about this a million times on social media. Our government, our nation, was established because King George III outlawed interest-free currency. That's all there is to it. We left a monarchy because he outlawed interest-free currency. We developed our own nation because currency with interest. We wanted to come here and have our own currency without interest. Now here we are, 2017, run in a nation that has currency with interest. This is everything that we're against. Everything that our founding fathers were against. It's absolutely outrageous, and it needs to stop, okay? The Federal Reserve needs to be abolished, and currency with interest needs to stop, and we need to get back to the fundamentals. Developing credit is one thing, but that's not what we're doing. We're talking about our interest rates. We're talking about the currency that runs our nation. Recently, I read with the Wall Street Journal something about quantitative easing. Quantitative easing was a stimulus package that the Federal Reserve made to try and create this facade that our economy is doing well. They were taking $40 billion a month and putting it into our economy, and let me tell you this one, $80 billion a day. $80 billion a day on top of $40 billion a month to create stimulus in our economy and to create this facade that our economy is doing well. They called it quantitative easing. The Wall Street Journal said 2 days ago that after spending $2 trillion in government bonds in an effort to stimulate our economy, the U.S. Federal Reserve can hardly admit that it doesn't know how or if it even worked. Federal Chairwoman Janet Yellen on Wednesday came as close as she's ever likely to get to accepting that quantitative easing is still poorly understood even by the experts. The Federal Reserve, the people that are creating these standards for our currency, is gambling with our future. We're their guinea pig. The wealthy have acquired so much wealth that they will not feel any effects of this. But the middle class and the lower classes in America are going to feel this more than ever. We've created this facade that our economy is doing well, and it is not. We've seen our housing market crash, okay? We've kind of put things into place so that doesn't happen again, but it still can happen. And the stock market crash, absolutely devastating. People lost their homes. When the stock market crashed 2007, people lost their full fucking retirements, okay? This is going to happen again unless we stop allowing the wealthy to do things like this. We're not a guinea pig. My children, my grandchildren are going to face an economy like the Depression if we don't nip this in the butt now. This primarily, it affects the wealthy. But the negative effects, when the negative effects occur, it's going to only affect the poor and the middle class, okay? If the system doesn't stop operating this way, we're going to see a financial collapse in those lower classes. We're going to see another depression. I keep saying the same things over and over again, but it's absolutely ridiculous and it needs to stop. The system is failing. If you'd like, we can talk about education. We can talk about our food. We can talk about unemployment and the jobs. And these unemployment rates that they have, these percentages that they come up with are based on people who had employment, are no longer employed, took unemployment, and then, hopefully find work again. The rates aren't realistic because it doesn't include an 18-year-old or a 23-year-old that's never had a job and can't get one. It doesn't include numerous factors that need to be part of it, okay? Don't let them fool you. This whole political system is a facade right now. It's smoke and mirrors. They want you to think that you have a vote. They want you to think that your vote counts, but in all reality, half the time it doesn't. In local government, they have something called gerrymandering, where a Republican or a Democratic party that is running can actually choose an area in which the votes count. Let's just say I live in Antioch or Oakley or wherever, and I am a Democratic representative, and Antioch's fully Republican and Oakley's Democratic. Well, I can say the votes from Antioch don't count, but the votes in Oakley do. They're manipulating us in so many ways, it's absolutely ridiculous. We can go on and on and on, okay? Now, my point is, communism, socialism, this democracy, this capitalism, it's all a divide. When really the only divide that needs to be acknowledged is rich and poor, okay? That's all there is to it. I keep saying the same things, and I'm going to continue to keep saying the same things because there's nothing else to talk about. There's rich people and there's poor people, and if you think that your neighbor who's making $100,000 is considered rich, he's really not, okay? In the grand scheme of things, he is fucking filthy broke, okay? In the grand scheme of the wealthy in America and the wealthy amongst the world in all reality. We need to come together as people. We need to come together and acknowledge our differences, acknowledge our racial differences, acknowledge our political differences, and understand that the real difference is that it's financially. It's not about race anymore. It's about rich and poor people, and really, often your neighbor who you might think is doing so much better than you is basically poor too in the grand scheme of wealth. Okay? It's not okay. My next statements are going to show how really fucked up it is around the world. If your family makes more than $10,000 a year, you are more wealthy than 84% of the world. I don't know if these statistics are entirely perfect and true, but if you do the research, there is a pattern. You see these patterns. So, if your family makes $10,000 a year annually, you are more wealthy than 84% of the world, okay? If you make $50,000 or more, you are more wealthy than 99% of the world. I saw this meme on Facebook the other day, and they said basically if you had $1 in a bank, if you had one item of food in a pantry somewhere, if you had one set of clothes, a bed to sleep on, and a roof over your head, whether it be a box or not, that you're more wealthy than 99% of the world. This is not a poor me. This is not, we're not here to whine. We're here to acknowledge that the financial structure of the United States is not adequate for us to continue to flourish in the way that we've seen for the last 100 years. It's not going to continue. So it's kind of a cry out for the nation, for people to come together and to really nip this shit in the butt. If we need a fucking revolution, then that's what we need. But we need to stop allowing the wealthy to dictate and make these decisions for us. We need to have a revolution. We need to come together as people. We need to stand against the wealthy deciding what's going to happen with us, deciding our fate. Once again, not here to play the victim. We need to come together, we need to educate ourselves, we need to accept our differences, we need to understand that it's just between the rich and poor, and we need to stop allowing them to make these decisions for us. We need to make our voice count, and if that means that we need to have a rally, stand and have a rally here in the streets or whatever, we need to do that, but we also need to do it peacefully, okay? We don't need to be causing chaos and mayhem. That is not the point either. But I think we can all acknowledge that we work way too hard, we're undercompensated, we're nickel and dime for everything. We don't have enough to really survive, okay? And that's the issue, is with inflation and the cost of goods out here, we are hardly making it. And if we're 99% more rich than the world, then that's even more of an issue, and we can't take care of outside of our own home if we haven't taken care of our home. We need to take care of our home, and then those issues can be addressed, and I'm not here to address those issues right now, but right now this is a cry out to the nation, it's a cry out to our leaders, cry out to the financial leaders of our world who are allowing this to happen. You need to do something. We have a system failure. It's not working. Thank you for your time. It's Mortal Mike. Talk to you later.
Unfortunately, too many of our citizens have lost faith.